The scent of brewing chamomile tea and the quiet rustle of turning pages were the familiar anchors of Dr. Alana Sharp's evenings. At 48, Alana had cultivated a life of profound intellectual rigor and equally profound personal serenity. Her home, a modest but elegantly appointed brownstone tucked away on a tree-lined street, was less a house and more a sanctuary. Bookshelves overflowed with everything from classical philosophy to cutting-edge economic theory, and scientific journals lay stacked on polished oak tables. A grand piano, slightly out of tune but lovingly maintained, stood silently in the corner, a cherished relic of a past passion. This was her world, a bastion of thought and quiet contemplation far removed from the clamor and compromise of the corporate sphere. Alana held a tenured professorship in economic ethics at the prestigious Eastwick University, a position that allowed her to dissect the moral complexities of global finance from a comfortable academic distance. Her lectures were renowned for their incisive clarity and unwavering moral compass, often challenging the very systems she now analyzed. She was respected, even revered in her field, yet in her daily life, she sought a quiet anonymity, preferring the genuine connection of a few close friends to the superficiality of public acclaim. She wasn't overtly lonely, but rather intentionally detached. Her meticulous organization wasn't a symptom of anxiety, but a reflection of her internal desire for order and clarity in a chaotic world. Every object in her home had its place. Every hour of her day was thoughtfully allocated. She found a quiet satisfaction in these routines, a predictable rhythm that grounded her. Instead of grand pronouncements about empathy, her actions spoke volumes. 3 evenings a week without fail, Alana would leave her academic world behind and walk to the local community center, a vibrant hub nestled in a less affluent part of the city. There, in a brightly lit, somewhat worn classroom, she tutored underprivileged high school students in math and economics. She patiently broke down complex concepts, her voice soft but unwavering, her explanations tailored to each student's unique learning style. She never accepted payment, often bringing homemade cookies or extra textbooks her only reward, the dawning comprehension in a student's eyes. Just last Tuesday, she'd stayed late with Maria, a bright-eyed teenager struggling to balance her part-time job with her advanced placement calculus. Maria's single mother worked 2 jobs, and Maria often cared for her younger siblings. Alana hadn't just helped Maria grasp quadratic equations. She'd listened, truly listened, as Maria spoke about her anxieties, her dreams. Later, Alana had discreetly packed a small, wholesome meal from her own kitchen, slipping it into Maria's backpack, with a casual, "extra from dinner, thought you might like it." She hadn't waited for thanks, simply offering a warm smile and a quiet encouragement to keep pushing forward. It was a small act, almost invisible, but it spoke volumes about her deep-seated desire to uplift others, to provide a quiet, steady hand where it was needed most. As Alana graded papers late one night, the soft glow of her desk lamp illuminating complex economic models, a fleeting memory surfaced. It was from years ago, a brief, tumultuous foray into the corporate world as a high-level consultant. She had presented a revolutionary, ethically sound business strategy to a skeptical, male-dominated board. Her ideas, though brilliant and forward-thinking, had been met with polite but firm dismissal, often accompanied by thinly veiled patronization. "Dr. Sharp, your academic insights are admirable, but in the real world we operate differently." A senior executive had drawled his words, laced with dismissive amusement. She had been undervalued, her insights dismissed as too idealistic, too ethical for the cutthroat corporate landscape. The memory brought a subtle flinch, an almost imperceptible tightening around her eyes. She rarely spoke of that time, the brief, intense period when she had tried to bridge the gap between theory and practice, only to be rebuffed. Tucked away in a dusty box in her attic beneath old academic papers and forgotten concert programs sat a pristine, heavy corporate award, a crystal obelisk given to her for outstanding analytical contributions during that brief consulting stint. It was a hollow recognition, a consolation prize for a battle she had lost to cynical pragmatism. She had deliberately distanced herself from that world, choosing the purity of academia over the murky waters of corporate compromise. The award, like the memory, was a relic of a past she'd consciously decided to suppress, a powerful business acumen she now rarely, if ever, displayed. The rhythm of her academic life, punctuated by lectures, research, and quiet acts of altruism, continued undisturbed for months. until a Tuesday morning not unlike any other when the serenity of her study was shattered by a jarring, insistent ring from her private, seldom-used phone. The caller ID was unfamiliar, an international number followed by Nexus Tech Solutions Corporate. Alana frowned. Nexus Tech Solutions. The name conjured images of cutting-edge yet often controversial artificial intelligence. Their founder, Dr. Eris Thorne, was a brilliant but reclusive visionary in the tech world, renowned for his groundbreaking AI research, some of which had pushed the boundaries of ethical debate. He was also her estranged elderly mentor, a man she had admired deeply in her youth, but from whom she had drifted away due to ideological differences over the commercialization of technology. She answered cautiously. The voice on the other end was formal, urgent, and deeply somber. It was Mr. Elijah Vance, the chairman of Nexus Tech's board, a man she vaguely remembered from academic conferences. He spoke quickly, his words laced with a controlled desperation. Dr. Eris Thorne had suffered a massive stroke. He was in critical condition, unlikely to recover. Then came the bombshell. Dr. Sharp, Mr. Vance stated, his voice dropping. Dr. Thorne's will, updated just weeks ago, names you as interim CEO of Nexus Tech Solutions, effective immediately. Furthermore, upon his passing, his controlling shares, a significant majority of the company, are bequeathed directly to you. Alana felt the floor drop out from under her. Interim CEO her. The scholar of economic ethics thrust into the leadership of a global tech conglomerate, a company known for its groundbreaking yet ethically complex AI research. It felt like a cruel cosmic joke. The irony was suffocating. She who critiqued corporate ethics was now being forced to embody them in the most high-stakes arena imaginable. There must be a mistake, Mr. Vance. Alana managed her voice tight. I am an academic. I have no experience running a corporation of that scale. No mistake, Dr. Sharp, Mr. Vance insisted, a weary sigh audible. Dr. Thorne was very clear. He explicitly stated in his will that he believed you were the only person with the unwavering moral compass and unparalleled intellectual capacity to guide Nexus Tech through its current ethical and financial crisis. He called you the conscience the industry so desperately needs. The phrase conscience the industry so desperately needs resonated with a strange, almost painful clarity. It was the very reason she had left the corporate world, the very ideal she championed in her lectures. Now her mentor on his deathbed was calling her back. The inheritance wasn't just about power or wealth. It was a profound, unexpected legacy, a moral burden she felt compelled to shoulder. Nexus Tech was not just struggling. Its financial stability was tied to a massive, long-standing $10 billion contract with a powerful traditional financial institution, Apex National Bank. The thought of navigating such a behemoth with its complex web of stakeholders and ethical minefields sent a wave of dread through her. Her first instinct was a fierce, almost visceral reluctance. She was a scholar of ethics, not a corporate titan. The idea of re-entering the cutthroat corporate world, especially one with such high stakes and ethical ambiguities, filled her with a profound sense of inadequacy, a return of the imposter syndrome she had fought so hard to conquer. She remembered the subtle slights, the condescending remarks about her naivete in business, the criticisms about her lack of ruthlessness. But beneath the dread, a faint, almost imperceptible spark ignited. It was a sense of duty to Dr. Thorne, a man who had believed in her fiercely, even when others hadn't. And perhaps a flicker of that forgotten ambition to truly implement her ethical theories not in a classroom, but on a grand world-changing scale. Mr. Vance's next words extinguished any lingering thought of refusal. Dr. Sharp, there's a critical addendum to the will. You must stabilize Nexus Tech within 6 months, and specifically you must ensure the renewal of the Apex National Bank contract within a fortnight. If you decline, or if the company fails to meet these objectives, the controlling shares revert to a consortium led by our fiercest competitor, Omnicorp. They are known for their aggressive, morally questionable tactics, and they would dismantle Dr. Thorne's life's work, including his groundbreaking, ethically focused AI projects, without a second thought. Thousands of livelihoods, Dr. Sharp, and the future of ethical AI depend on your decision. The stipulation was a direct, unyielding ultimatum. This was not merely an offer. It was a demand, a burden, a challenge she could not refuse without betraying everything she believed in. Omnicorp was everything she abhorred, ruthless, profit-driven, and utterly devoid of ethical considerations. Her academic life, while fulfilling, felt suddenly small, almost irrelevant in the face of such a monumental threat. She could not simply exist within the sterile confines of her university, while Dr. Thorne's legacy and the future of ethical technology hung in the balance. The point of no return had arrived swiftly and irrevocably. Alana closed her eyes for a moment, the weight of the decision settling upon her. When she opened them, the placid serenity had been replaced by a quiet, fierce determination. The scholar's intellect merged with a dormant, steely resolve. The meticulously ordered life she had built was about to be irrevocably disrupted. But this disruption, she realized, was also an opportunity to prove that ethics and profit were not mutually exclusive, that a conscience could indeed thrive in the cutthroat world of corporate power. The legend, it seemed, was not just returning, it was being reborn. The transition from the hallowed halls of academia to the gleaming yet ethically murky corridors of Nexus Tech Solutions was jarring. Alana's brownstone, once her sanctuary, now felt like a temporary respite, a place for brief snatched hours of sleep between endless meetings and urgent phone calls. The hum of her refrigerator was a distant memory, replaced by the constant high-pitched thrum of servers, the hushed urgency of corporate dialogues, and the relentless ping of unread emails. Her first days at Nexus Tech were a maelstrom of information. She delved into the company's intricate financial architecture, its groundbreaking but controversial AI research divisions, and its sprawling global operations. She met with department heads, engineers, and ethicists, listening intently, her mind a precision instrument, dissecting complex data and identifying underlying patterns. She quickly realized that Dr. Thorne's vision for ethical AI was brilliant, but years of neglect and the looming financial crisis had left the company vulnerable, a diamond covered in grime. The immediate priority, the very lifeline of Nexus Tech, was the $10 billion contract renewal with Apex National Bank. This contract wasn't just a large sum, it was the bedrock of the company's financial stability, securing funding for critical research projects and ensuring the livelihoods of thousands of employees. The existing contract was set to expire in just 2 weeks, and the renewal process required meticulous review and formal approval by both parties. Alana, ever the pragmatist, decided to handle the final verification herself. She knew that such high-stakes contracts often involved layers of bureaucracy and subtle power plays. She wanted to see the bank's operations firsthand to gauge the integrity of its internal culture and to understand the real-world implications of their partnership. She also wanted to make a statement, albeit a quiet one, about her commitment to transparency and direct engagement. On a cool, overcast Monday morning, Alana drove her unassuming, slightly dated sedan towards the imposing glass and steel skyscraper that housed the headquarters of Apex National Bank. She was dressed meticulously but without ostentation, a tailored charcoal gray pantsuit, a crisp white blouse, and sensible low heels. Her hair was pulled back in a neat bun, and her face was devoid of makeup, allowing her sharp, intelligent eyes to dominate. She wanted to blend in, to observe, to be just another customer before revealing her true identity. She carried a sleek professional briefcase containing Nexus Tech's most sensitive financial documents and her newly issued high-security CEO identification card. It was a state-of-the-art ID embedded with multiple biometric and digital security features virtually impossible to replicate. As she entered the grand marble-floored lobby of Apex National, the air hummed with the quiet, efficient murmur of money and power. She approached the customer service counter, choosing the line for general inquiries. At the front of the line, seated behind a polished mahogany desk, was Ms. Bethany Clark, a woman in her late 40s, with a meticulously coiffed blonde bob, sharp, judgmental eyes, and a tight, almost imperceptible smile that never quite reached her eyes. Bethany was a senior teller, a long-serving employee known for her efficiency, her rigid adherence to protocol, and her subtle yet pervasive dismissiveness towards clients she deemed unworthy or problematic. She harbored a quiet resentment towards anyone she perceived as getting something for nothing, and held a deep-seated, though often unspoken, prejudice against those who didn't fit her narrow definition of corporate respectability. She saw Alana, a black woman in understated attire, as just another common customer, perhaps even a potential difficult case. Alana approached the counter, her briefcase held firmly in one hand. "Good morning," she greeted Bethany. her voice calm and polite. "I'm here to verify some details regarding a corporate account and to authenticate my new corporate identification." She extended her hand, offering the sleek black CEO ID card. Bethany took the card, her tight smile faltering as her eyes flicked from the impressive CEO title to Alana's face, then back to the card. Her gaze lingered on the prominent Nexus Tech Solutions logo, a company she knew even vaguely was struggling. A subtle sneer touched her lips. She had a habit of making snap judgments based on appearance, and Alana's understated elegance coupled with her race seemed to trigger a deep-seated bias. In Bethany's mind, a black woman dressed so plainly couldn't possibly be the CEO of a major tech conglomerate, especially one dealing with a $10 billion contract. It simply didn't fit her preconceived notions of power and prestige. "Are you sure this is yours, hon?" Bethany drawled, her voice dripping with condescension, loud enough for a few other customers in line to hear. "Some people try anything these days to get ahead. This card looks, well, it looks a bit off, like it came from a cheap printer." She didn't bother to scan it, didn't even turn it over to inspect the security holograms. Her dismissiveness was immediate, rooted in an unconscious yet palpable prejudice. Alana's spine stiffened. The subtle disrespect was like a sharp, cold jab. She had encountered such microaggressions throughout her life, dismissive tones, unspoken assumptions about her capabilities based on her appearance. But this was different. This wasn't just a minor slight. This was a direct assault on her identity, her authority, and her very right to occupy a position of power, all while holding the lifeblood of Nexus Tech in her hands. "Ms. Clark," Alana said, her voice dropping to a low, resonant tone that rarely saw the light of day in her academic life. It was a voice that commanded attention, a voice she had used in high-stakes negotiations years ago, a voice imbued with the quiet authority of someone who knew exactly who she was. "That ID is a high-security corporate credential. It is entirely authentic. I am here to finalize the verification process for Nexus Tech Solutions." Bethany, however, was already committed to her prejudice. She scoffed, a dismissive sound that was barely audible but spoke volumes. "Look, I don't know what kind of game you're playing, lady, but this is Apex National Bank and we don't tolerate fakery." And then, with a calculated, deliberately contemptuous gesture, she took Alana's pristine high-security CEO identification card, looked Alana directly in the eye, and ripped it in half. Slowly, deliberately, her gaze filled with a smug, self-satisfied superiority. She then pushed the two torn pieces across the counter with her index finger, as if dismissing a piece of trash. "I think you need to leave. And don't come back with forged documents." The sound of the tearing card, crisp and final, echoed in the quiet bank lobby. A collective intake of breath rippled through the few customers waiting in line. Kevin, a young black security guard in his early 20s stationed near the entrance, had been subtly observing Bethany's interactions for weeks. He had witnessed her subtle but consistent discriminatory behavior towards minority clients. The longer waits, the harsher tones, the casual dismissals. He had seen the way her smile tightened, the way her eyes narrowed. Now, witnessing this blatant act, his eyes widened in horror. He felt a cold dread settle in his stomach. He knew instinctively this was deeply wrong. He knew it was prejudiced. He nervously clutched his walkie-talkie, unsure of what to do. Alana stood motionless for a beat, the two torn pieces of her ID lying on the polished counter like discarded fragments of her authority. The initial shock gave way to a surge of icy fury, a cold, calculated rage that simmered beneath her placid exterior. The quiet academic vanished, completely replaced by a formidable corporate titan she once was, and now definitively must be. This wasn't just about a torn card. It was about blatant disrespect, racial prejudice, and a direct assault on her position and the company she now led. It was an assault on the very principles of fairness and ethical conduct she championed. She did not shout. She did not raise her voice. Instead, her tone dropped even further, becoming a chillingly precise whisper that somehow cut through the murmurs in the lobby. "Ms. Clark." Alana stated, her voice like steel, each word enunciated with a deadly calm. "I am Dr. Alana Sharp, interim CEO of Nexus Tech Solutions." She gestured subtly to the torn pieces of the ID. That card, which you just deliberately destroyed, contains advanced biometric and digital security features. Its destruction is not merely a breach of protocol, but a felony. Bethany's smug expression slowly disintegrated. Her coiffed hair seemed to droop slightly, her tight smile replaced by a look of sheer dawning terror. Her eyes flicked nervously from Alana's face to the torn ID, then back to Alana, now seeing her not as a common customer, but as something far more formidable. The confident sneer melted into a pathetic, fumbling attempt at denial. No, that's impossible. You're just a customer. This is fake. I know fake when I see it. She instinctively took a half step back, her eyes wide with a desperate animal fear. She suddenly remembered hushed conversations about the enormous Nexus Tech contract. Fake. Alana's voice remained calm, but it held a cutting edge. The fake identification card you just destroyed belongs to the interim CEO of the company responsible for Apex National Bank's $10 billion corporate contract. She let that number hang in the air, a colossal weight that seemed to crush Bethany's last shred of composure. A contract, I might add, that is currently under review for renewal. The words echoed in Bethany's mind, $10 billion. Her jaw dropped. Her face, which had been pale, turned a sickly shade of white. She had just insulted, demeaned, and destroyed the official identification of a major client, costing her bank a fortune, all because of her own ingrained prejudice. The realization hit her with the force of a physical blow. Her denials were weak, her stammering excuses pathetic. She tried to backtrack, to apologize, to fumble for the torn pieces of the ID. But Alana's calm, unwavering gaze, filled with a quiet, undeniable power, silenced her completely. Kevin, the young security guard, stood transfixed. He had recognized the Nexus Tech logo on the card and had heard the $10 billion contract mentioned in hushed tones around the bank. His initial terror for Alana now transformed into utter shock, then a profound sense of awe and dawning respect. He saw the sheer power of Alana's composure, the strength in her quiet authority. He had suspected Bethany's racism, and now he had witnessed its catastrophic consequences. He instinctively reached for his phone, discreetly beginning to record the scene, a quiet witness to the unfolding drama driven by an instinct for justice. He was the Noi Tro Gyup, seeing the light when others only saw prejudice. A few other customers who had been glancing nervously now stared openly, their discomfort transforming into a mixture of disbelief and growing outrage on Alana's behalf. One woman gasped, covering her mouth with her hand. Alana turned her gaze from Bethany to a nearby, unobtrusive digital clock on the bank wall. 7 minutes. That's how long it had taken from her polite greeting to Bethany's calculated destruction of her ID. 7 minutes. She then looked directly at Bethany, her eyes holding an expression of profound disappointment, almost pity, that was more devastating than any rage. 7 minutes, Ms. Clark. Alana stated, her voice resonating with an unshakable finality. 7 minutes is all it took for you to demonstrate an appalling lack of professionalism, a flagrant disregard for client protocol, and an unacceptable level of prejudice. Apex National Bank, it seems, does not share Nexus Tech Solutions' values of respect and integrity. She paused, letting the words sink in, then delivered the final crushing blow. Effective immediately, Ms. Clark, Nexus Tech Solutions is terminating all existing contracts with Apex National Bank, including the pending $10 billion renewal. We will be taking our business elsewhere. The words hung in the air, echoing in the stunned silence of the bank lobby. Bethany's face went from ashen to a ghastly green. Her jaw dropped further, her eyes wide with a mixture of disbelief and raw, unadulterated terror. The arrogance, the condescension, the years of casual prejudice. All of it had come crashing down in a single devastating moment. The quiet academic had vanished, replaced by the formidable CEO, who had in 7 chilling minutes wielded her power with surgical precision, not just to fire a prejudiced bank teller, but to dismantle a multi-billion-dollar relationship. The legend, it seemed, had returned with a vengeance. The immediate aftermath of Alana's pronouncement was a scene of stunned disbelief. The air in the opulent lobby of Apex National Bank, usually a sanctuary of hushed transactions, crackled with an almost tangible tension. Bethany Clark stood frozen, her face a sickly shade of green, her jaw slack. The words, $10 billion contract, and terminating all existing contracts, reverberated in her mind, a death knell to her career, and potentially to the bank's relationship with a crucial client. She stammered, attempting to form an apology, a retraction, anything to undo the catastrophic damage her prejudice had wrought, but no coherent sound emerged. Her eyes darted around, seeking an escape, a denial, but found only the horrified stares of colleagues and customers. Kevin, the young security guard, stood transfixed, his phone still subtly recording. He had captured it all. Bethany's initial condescension, the tearing of the ID, Alana's chillingly calm revelation, and the final devastating announcement. A mix of fear and exhilarating awe coursed through him. He had always known Bethany was discriminatory, but to witness such a public, decisive dismantling of her arrogance, and by a black woman no less, was a moment he knew he would never forget. Suddenly, a flurry of activity erupted from behind the counter. A few tellers, their faces pale with shock, began whispering frantically into phones, alerting their superiors. Within moments, a tall, impeccably dressed man, with a prematurely gray temples and a perpetually agitated expression, emerged from a glass-walled office at the back of the lobby. This was Mr. Wallace Harding, Bethany's direct manager, and a long-standing, somewhat timid veteran of Apex National Bank. He had heard the commotion and the panicked whispers about Dr. Sharp and terminated contracts. Harding rushed to the counter, his eyes wide with frantic urgency. He recognized Alana Sharp, not from personal interaction, but from the high-level internal memos regarding the Nexus Tech Solutions contract. His face went even paler as he saw the torn ID fragments on the counter. "Dr. Sharp, my apologies, I don't know what happened here. There must be a misunderstanding," he stammered, casting a furious yet fearful glance at Bethany, who now looked as though she might spontaneously combust from sheer terror and humiliation. Alana turned to Harding, her expression unyielding. "There is no misunderstanding, Mr. Harding," she stated, her voice resonating with authority that brooked no argument. "Your employee, Ms. Clark, deliberately destroyed my official CEO identification, denied me service, and subjected me to discriminatory remarks. Her actions directly reflect the values or lack thereof within your institution. As such, Nexus Tech Solutions will no longer be doing business with Apex National Bank." Harding visibly deflated. He knew the gravity of her words. The $10 billion contract was one of the bank's most lucrative and prestigious accounts. Its loss would send shockwaves through the entire organization, potentially affecting his own career. He swallowed hard, then turned to Bethany, his eyes blazing with a mixture of professional fury and personal disgust. "Bethany, what have you done?" he hissed, his voice barely a whisper but laced with venom. Bethany, still unable to speak coherently, could only gesture wildly, her face contorted in a silent scream of despair. "Mr. Harding," Alana continued, her voice cutting through the rising tension, "I suggest you deal with your employee. Nexus Tech will expect a formal confirmation of contract termination from Apex National Bank's highest authority within the hour. Good day." With that, Alana turned on her heel and walked out of the bank, her steps measured and confident, leaving behind a scene of utter chaos and panic. The moment she stepped onto the bustling city sidewalk, the tension that had held her rigid for the past few minutes began to dissipate, replaced by a strange mix of exhaustion and exhilarating triumph. The quiet analyst had not only resurfaced, she had roared a silent but devastating roar that had rattled the foundations of a powerful institution. Back inside, Apex National, Harding wasted no time. He immediately pulled Bethany off the counter, ushering her into a private office. "You are suspended indefinitely, Bethany," he announced, his voice trembling with contained rage. "Effective immediately. Your actions today are an unforgivable breach of protocol and a direct threat to this bank's financial stability. You will be hearing from HR and legal." Bethany finally found her voice a desperate, pathetic whine. "But Mr. Harding, she was so rude. And her ID, it just looked so unofficial. I was just following protocol." She clutched at him, tears welling in her eyes. She genuinely believed her own warped perception that she was a victim of a powerful black woman who had somehow manipulated the situation. Harding shook his head in disgust. "You tore up the CEO ID of a $10 billion client, Bethany. On what planet is that following protocol? Your judgment, your prejudice has cost this bank immeasurably. Get out." He then rushed to his own office, frantically calling Mr. Donovan Sterling, the CEO of Apex National Bank. Sterling, a shrewd, calculating businessman in his late 50s, with an almost arrogant self-assurance, listened impassively as Harding recounted the events, his voice a frantic stream of apologies and terrified explanations. Sterling was a man who prized control, efficiency, and above all, profit. He had built Apex National into a powerhouse, often by aggressive, unapologetic tactics. He knew the Nexus Tech contract was immense, but he had dismissed Dr. Alana Sharp as merely an academic, an interim figurehead, who would surely be replaced by a more business-minded individual. He had even heard whispers about her ethical academic leanings, dismissing them as naive and irrelevant in the real world of finance. "So let me get this straight. Wallace," Sterling said, his voice dangerously calm, a stark contrast to Harding's hysteria. "Your senior teller, on her very first day as CEO, verbally assaulted Dr. Sharp and then destroyed her identification, leading to the immediate cancellation of our $10 billion contract." His calm tone was more terrifying than any shouting. "Yes, sir," Harding whimpered. "It was an isolated incident, a terrible error in judgment on Bethany's part. We can fix this. We can apologize, offer a new contract, send a limousine to Dr. Sharp's office." Sterling cut him off with a chilling laugh. "An isolated incident, Wallace. Do you have any idea how much this will cost us? Not just the $10 billion, but the reputational damage, the potential for other clients to question our values. This Dr. Sharp, she's clearly a loose cannon, an academic who doesn't understand how the real world operates. She's being emotional." He already saw Alana as an irrational actor, her actions driven by personal offense rather than legitimate business strategy. He believed she was trying to leverage the situation for a better deal or simply acting out. He also held a subtle yet deeply ingrained bias against women, particularly black women in positions of ultimate power. He respected power, but only when it aligned with his preconceived notions of who should wield it. Sterling then made a swift, ruthless decision. "No, Wallace. We won't beg. We won't grovel. This Dr. Sharp has made a public spectacle. We will counter it. Apex National Bank does not tolerate threats from unstable clients. Issue a public statement immediately. Frame her accusations as unprofessional behavior and unsubstantiated claims from an unstable new CEO facing a company on the brink of collapse. Emphasize Apex National Bank's long-standing commitment to service excellence and client integrity. And then initiate a quiet but aggressive counter-campaign. Leverage our influence in the financial world. Spread the word that Nexus Tech is unstable, that its new CEO is erratic and inexperienced. We will make sure no other reputable bank touches that contract." He paused, a sly smile forming on his lips. "And Bethany Clark Wallace, don't just suspend her, terminate her, with prejudice. Make it clear she's a scapegoat. Blame everything on her isolated incident. That will make us look decisive and responsive to client needs, a necessary sacrifice to protect the brand." He was ruthless, willing to sacrifice an employee to protect his image, and more importantly, to crush a perceived threat. He believed that by destroying Alana's reputation, he could eventually force Nexus Tech back to Apex National on his terms, or acquire them for pennies on the dollar after they collapsed. Meanwhile, Bethany Clark, having been summarily fired, was consumed by a bitter cocktail of fear, humiliation, and desperate rage. She had lost everything. Her long career, her comfortable life, her sense of self-importance, all gone in a few minutes because of that woman. She couldn't accept responsibility. It had to be Alana's fault. Alana was the aggressor, the fraud who had walked in and ruined her life. She was convinced Alana was a conniving manipulator using her race as a weapon to destroy innocent people like her. Driven by a burning desire for revenge, Bethany immediately began contacting her network of old media acquaintances, journalists she had fed anonymous tips to over the years. She twisted the narrative, portraying herself as the innocent victim of an aggressive, irrational black CEO who had flown into a rage over a minor misunderstanding, escalating a simple ID check into a multi-billion-dollar crisis. She hinted at Alana's questionable past in the corporate world, vaguely referencing a failed venture from years ago, twisting it to suggest incompetence and volatility. She painted Alana as a radical academic, trying to impose unrealistic ethical standards on a business that simply couldn't afford them. Her stories were full of hyperbole, designed to evoke sympathy for herself an outrage against Alana. Within hours, the carefully orchestrated counter-campaign began. News outlets eager for a sensational story picked up Bethany's insider accounts, often subtly echoing her prejudiced framing. Financial gossip columns buzzed with rumors about Nexus Tech's alleged instability and Alana's erratic management style. The academic world, too, was abuzz. Alana's colleagues, while supportive, expressed thinly veiled concern about her return to the dirty world of corporate finance, some even questioning if she was truly up to the task. Alana, back in her Nexus Tech office, felt the first tremors of the organized assault. Her phone rang incessantly with calls from concerned board members, nervous department heads, and even a few bewildered academic colleagues. The media reports, though often vague, were insidious, designed to erode public trust and sow discord among Nexus Tech employees. The pressure mounted daily. She found herself working 18-hour days, strategizing reassuring fighting fires on multiple fronts. The placid serenity she had cultivated for years began to fray at the edges. She felt the isolation keenly. Dr. Thorne was still too ill to provide guidance. The Nexus Tech board, while respectful, was risk-averse, their confidence shaken by the public outcry. Her only unwavering anchor was Kevin. After leaving Apex National, Kevin had immediately contacted Nexus Tech's corporate security, explaining what he had witnessed and offering the audio recording from his phone as evidence. He was initially terrified of retaliation from Apex National, but Alana had personally called him, assuring him of his safety and praising his courage. He then worked tirelessly, providing more internal insights into Bethany's discriminatory patterns and Sterling's aggressive business tactics. He was becoming her eyes and ears on the ground, a quiet, indispensable ally. He was learning, growing, transforming from a nervous kid into a budding strategist, driven by a fierce loyalty to Alana and a profound desire to see justice served. He had seen firsthand how Bethany had treated Alana, how she had treated him and other marginalized customers, and he felt a deep personal connection to Alana's fight. He was the quiet, steady hand, the true Ngoy Trogyup in this escalating corporate war. Alana knew that simply denying the rumors wouldn't be enough. Sterling, the cunning architect behind Apex National Bank, wasn't just a Ngoy Hyo Lam who might eventually see the light. He was an immediate, powerful adversary fueled by profit and a ruthless determination to crush anyone who stood in his way. He saw her as an easy target, a temporary hurdle, and her actions as an emotional outburst. This wasn't just about winning a contract. It was about protecting Nexus Tech, validating her ethical principles, and preserving her reputation against a coordinated attack designed to break her. The challenge intensified exponentially when the industry news broke. The annual Global Tech and Finance Summit was fast approaching. It was a prestigious event, a showcase for major players in both sectors, and a platform for community leaders. This year, due to the recent volatility in the market, the summit would feature a highly anticipated Future of Finance and AI panel with Mr. Donovan Sterling as the keynote speaker representing Apex National Bank. More ominously, the summit also announced a special Corporate Ethics and Resilience session, inviting Nexus Tech Solutions to present its path forward after recent leadership changes and market fluctuations. An invitation arrived for Alana, personally addressed for Nexus Tech, to participate in this session. Alana stared at the elegant embossed card, a cynical smile touching her lips. Sterling was trying to draw her out to make her fight on his turf in front of an audience he had undoubtedly influenced. This wasn't just an industry conference. It was a carefully designed public arena, orchestrated to expose her perceived incompetence, to publicly validate Apex National Bank's narrative, and to set the stage for Nexus Tech's ultimate collapse. Sterling, it was clear, intended to deliver the final crushing blow not in a boardroom but in a global forum. The pressure was immense. The summit was in less than 3 weeks. 3 weeks to counter a sophisticated smear campaign, silence a powerful rival, and demonstrate that her ethical vision was not a weakness, but Nexus Tech's greatest strength. 3 weeks to prepare a presentation that would not only showcase her vision, but also subtly expose her adversaries without appearing vindictive or unprofessional. Alana felt the full weight of her isolation. She had no seasoned PR team, no corporate defense lawyers experienced in this kind of public battle. It was just her Kevin and the raw data she had painstakingly collected. Every night she barely slept, fueled by black coffee and a fierce determination. She remembered the corporate award tucked away in her attic, the one she had dismissed as hollow. Now she realized it was a reminder of her past suppressed talent. This wasn't about climbing, it was about survival. It was about reclaiming not just a business, but her own sense of purpose and worth, validated not by external approval, but by her own unwavering resilience. She spent hours in the quiet of her office, surrounded by financial projections and complex ethical frameworks. She analyzed every single detail of Apex National Bank's operations, cross-referencing them with the whispers of sabotage. She identified the specific weak points Bethany and Sterling had exploited. She understood the supply chain bottlenecks, the inflated repair costs, the carefully orchestrated rumors. She realized that her greatest strength wasn't her past academic experience alone, but her ability to see the interconnectedness of things, to find the hidden patterns, to discern the truth beneath the layers of deception. Kevin, meanwhile, worked tirelessly. He was her eyes and ears on the ground, relaying information from inside the bank through a network of disgruntled low-level employees who had witnessed Bethany's and other managers' discriminatory behavior. He cross-referenced public records with internal Apex National memos Alana had subtly guided him to find, uncovering more instances of discriminatory practices against minority clients, all carefully documented. He was learning, growing, transforming from a nervous kid into a budding strategist, fiercely loyal to Alana and deeply invested in seeing justice served. He had witnessed firsthand how Bethany had treated her, how she had treated him and other marginalized customers, and he felt a deep personal connection to Alana's fight. He was her unwavering anchor in the stormy sea of corporate intrigue. Alana knew that simply presenting a business plan wouldn't be enough. She needed to expose the truth, to turn the tables on Bethany and Sterling in a way that left no room for doubt or rebuttal. She began to formulate a strategy that was as meticulous as it was audacious. She would not just present her vision. She would dismantle their carefully constructed lies, piece by painful piece, leaving their reputations in ruins. The thought filled her with a grim satisfaction. The time for quiet observation was over. The time for the legend to not just return, but to reclaim its rightful place had arrived. The days leading up to the Global Tech and Finance Summit were a relentless blur for Alana. Her elegant brownstone, once a haven of academic tranquility, had been transformed into a strategic command center. Financial reports, market analyses, legal documents, and detailed ethical frameworks now covered every available surface, replacing the neat stacks of philosophical texts. The quiet hum of her refrigerator was long forgotten, subsumed by the constant glow of multiple computer monitors and the incessant ping of incoming data. Sleep became a luxury she rarely afforded herself, fueled instead by black coffee and an unyielding determination. Alana knew that her battle against Donovan Sterling and Apex National Bank wasn't just a corporate dispute. It was a war waged on multiple fronts: financial, reputational, and deeply personal. Sterling, true to his ruthless nature, had escalated his counter-campaign. His influence in the financial world was vast, and he wielded it with surgical precision. Apex National Bank, quietly but effectively, began leveraging its connections to dry up Nexus Tech's alternative funding sources. Investment firms suddenly became hesitant to meet with Nexus Tech's representatives, citing vague market uncertainties and leadership concerns. Loan applications, once routinely approved, now faced inexplicable delays and impossible demands for collateral. The media fed a steady diet of whispers from Bethany Clark, and veiled suggestions from Sterling's PR machine painted an increasingly dire picture of Nexus Tech. Anonymous sources, supposedly former employees, spoke of a toxic work environment and unrealistic ethical demands imposed by the new, inexperienced academic CEO. The articles, while never explicitly stating racial bias, subtly questioned Alana's background and her suitability for the cutthroat tech industry, tapping into pervasive unspoken stereotypes. These were designed to erode investor confidence and sow further dissent among Nexus Tech's already nervous workforce. Bethany Clark, consumed by her own bitter resentment and convinced of Alana's malice, doubled down on her personal vendetta. From her new, meager apartment, she spent her days online creating anonymous social media accounts and posting vicious, often fabricated stories about Alana. She depicted herself as the innocent victim of a powerful, vindictive black woman, weaving elaborate tales of Alana's alleged past failures and personal instability. Her posts, though easily dismissible as fringe conspiracy theories by some, found traction in certain echo chambers, further muddying the waters and amplifying the negative noise surrounding Alana. Meanwhile, Sterling himself was outwardly charming, preparing for his keynote address at the summit, where he intended to present Apex National Bank as a pillar of stability and integrity in a volatile market. In private, his thoughts churned with calculated malice. He genuinely believed Alana was an impulsive emotional figure, a temporary anomaly in the corporate landscape. He saw her as an obstacle to be systematically removed, not a legitimate competitor. He saw her as flailing, her decisions desperate, her ethical stance a sign of weakness, not strength. His prejudice, subtly ingrained, prevented him from seeing her true strategic brilliance. He knew he needed to publicly humiliate her to prove his narrative of her incompetence and cement his bank's dominance. Alana, however, was not flailing. She was meticulously preparing. Her background as an economic ethicist allowed her to see patterns and connections that others missed. She dissected Apex National's public financial statements, cross-referencing them with leaked industry reports Kevin had provided. She found subtle inconsistencies unusually high, executive bonuses even as the bank claimed financial prudence, and a disproportionate number of loan rejections for minority-owned businesses, a silent testament to the very systemic prejudice Bethany Clark embodied. Her team at Nexus Tech, though small, was fiercely loyal. Kevin, in particular, proved to be invaluable. He had transitioned from a nervous security guard to a full-fledged investigative assistant, his quiet determination matching Alana's own. He worked tirelessly, leveraging his former contacts within Apex National, and even reaching out to former disgruntled employees who had witnessed Bethany's behavior or Sterling's questionable practices. He unearthed internal memos detailing Apex National's aggressive, often ethically dubious strategies to maintain market dominance, including instances where they had intentionally delayed competitor financing or spread discrediting rumors. His most crucial find was a series of encrypted internal communications between Bethany and a mid-level Apex National manager, detailing her deliberate plan to provoke Alana and destroy her ID, orchestrated before Alana even walked into the bank, a clear indication of premeditated malice rather than a mistake. The pressure on Alana was immense. Nexus Tech was hemorrhaging money. Suppliers, nervous about the bank crisis, demanded upfront payments. Some key engineers, spooked by the media narrative, began quietly updating their resumes. The board, while still holding faith in Alana, grew increasingly anxious about the rapidly approaching contract deadline. They pleaded with her to reconsider, to at least try to salvage a relationship with Apex National, to avoid further public confrontation. Dr. Sharp, perhaps a more conciliatory approach, Mr. Vance had suggested, his voice strained. We can't afford to alienate the entire financial sector. Alana listened, absorbing their fears, but remained unswayed. She knew conciliation would be mistaken for weakness. She knew that to survive she had to dismantle Sterling's power, not placate it. The summit wasn't just a presentation. It was her arena. It was where she would fight not just for Nexus Tech, but for the very principles she believed in. And she would do it alone in the public eye against a powerful adversary. The Global Tech and Finance Summit was held at the city's largest convention center, a sprawling complex buzzing with the crème de la crème of global industry. The Future of Finance and AI panel was scheduled for the Grand Main Auditorium, a vast space with tiered seating, multiple jumbo screens, and a formidable panel of judges and esteemed industry leaders. Local and international media were everywhere, their cameras poised, their reporters hungry for the next big headline. Alana arrived early, her presence a quiet ripple in the boisterous crowd. She wore a striking, impeccably tailored suit in a deep emerald green, a subtle nod to her focus on ethical and sustainable technology. Her hair was styled in an elegant, intricate braid, and her demeanor was one of calm, almost serene power. She walked with purpose, her head held high, acknowledging a few respectful nods from academic colleagues and a fleeting nervous glance from a low-level Apex National employee, who quickly averted his gaze. She carried only a slim, encrypted tablet. She saw Sterling immediately. He was holding court near the entrance to the auditorium, surrounded by his usual coterie of fawning executives and eager journalists. He exuded an air of polished arrogance, his smile wide and confident as he gestured grandly while speaking. His eyes, however, held a predatory glint as they briefly found Alana. He offered a tight, dismissive smirk, a silent message of condescension. He saw her, as always, as an amateur, an emotional anomaly. He had already mentally rehearsed his victory speech, certain of her impending public humiliation. The summit began with a series of technical presentations and moderated discussions. Then came Sterling's keynote address. He strode onto the stage to a round of polite applause, his image projected onto the jumbo screens, his voice booming with practiced authority. He spoke eloquently of Apex National Bank's unwavering commitment to stability, its resilience in challenging times, and its forward-thinking approach to innovation, all while subtly hinting at the reckless decisions made by certain untested players in the market, a veiled but obvious jab at Alana and Nexus Tech. He painted a picture of himself as a bastion of tradition and reliability, subtly contrasting it with the perceived chaos Alana represented. His words were designed to reinforce the narrative of her instability and his bank's unassailable position. As Sterling concluded his speech to a round of appreciative applause, the moderator introduced the next segment, the Corporate Ethics and Resilience session, featuring Nexus Tech Solutions. Alana felt a familiar calm settle over her. This was her moment. This was the symbolic arena where she would fight not just for a contract, but for the very soul of her company, and for the broader principle of integrity in business. She walked onto the stage alone, the vast auditorium suddenly feeling intimately personal. The lights were bright, the cameras silently whirring, every eye fixed on her. She knew that in this moment, she was not just representing Nexus Tech, but every black woman who had ever been underestimated, dismissed, or had her authority challenged. Good morning, esteemed colleagues, investors, and members of the press. Alana began, her voice clear and resonant, carrying effortlessly through the microphone. My name is Dr. Alana Sharp, and I am the interim CEO of Nexus Tech Solutions. She paused, letting her words sink in, scanning the faces in the audience. She saw a mixture of skepticism, curiosity, and in some eyes a clear reflection of the subtle prejudice that had fueled Sterling's campaign. For the past few weeks, she continued, Nexus Tech has been the subject of intense scrutiny and regrettably targeted misinformation. She clicked to her first slide. It wasn't a corporate logo or a glowing mission statement. It was a simple, stark image, the two torn halves of her CEO identification card magnified on the giant screens behind her, the jagged edges painfully clear. A ripple of murmurs spread through the audience. Sterling in the front row stiffened, his confident smirk vanishing. This, Alana stated, her voice unwavering, is the result of what some have dismissed as an isolated incident and unprofessional behavior on my part. But today I am here to present the truth. She began her presentation not with abstract theories, but with undeniable facts and meticulously sourced evidence. Her slides were crisp, her data irrefutable. She outlined the financial vulnerabilities Nexus Tech had faced due to the abrupt contract termination, explaining how these were exacerbated by a coordinated campaign to block alternative financing. She showed detailed graphs illustrating the precise impact of negative media coverage on investor confidence, linking specific articles to Bethany Clark's anonymous online posts, which Kevin had meticulously traced and verified. The judges, a panel of 5 formidable figures from finance and industry, listened impassively at first, but their expressions slowly shifted from polite skepticism to growing intrigue. Alana's presentation was not emotional. It was clinical, precise, and utterly damning. She wasn't just talking about problems. She was laying bare the malicious architecture behind them. Then, she moved to the heart of her argument. However, she said, her voice dropping slightly, this campaign goes far beyond the actions of a single disgruntled employee. It extends to systematic discrimination and anti-competitive practices. She clicked to a slide displaying a complex interconnected web of data, internal Apex National Bank records showing discriminatory lending practices, disproportionate rejection rates for minority-owned businesses, and a pattern of favoring larger, established, and predominantly white corporations over smaller, innovative, and diverse ventures. These are not mere coincidences, she stated, her eyes sweeping across the audience, momentarily locking with Sterling's. His face, for the first time, showed a flicker of genuine fear. He had not anticipated this level of detail, this depth of investigation. A low murmur rippled through the audience. Alana clicked again. The screen now displayed an encrypted internal memo from Apex National Bank sourced by Kevin, detailing Sterling's directive to discourage any new financial relationships with Nexus Tech, citing reputational risk. A clear attempt to monopolize the financial market for his own gain, leveraging his bank's power to crush a competitor. The evidence was circumstantial but compelling, especially when viewed through the lens of Apex National's discriminatory patterns. Sterling in the front row let out a nervous cough. He began to whisper frantically to his PR manager beside him. And finally, Alana said, her voice rising slightly, her gaze piercing, "I have irrefutable evidence of a deliberate campaign to spread misinformation and financially destabilize Nexus Tech Solutions originating directly from Apex National Bank." She clicked the slide one last time. The screen showed a recording, a grainy but clear audio file of a phone conversation. It was Bethany Clark's voice, unmistakable, advising a journalist on how to frame negative stories about Alana. The audio then shifted to Sterling's voice calmly, outlining his strategy to squeeze out the new, inexperienced owner and acquire Nexus Tech at a bargain basement price, even discussing specific steps to pressure other banks into refusing Nexus Tech's business. He detailed how he would use his influence to make an example of Alana for her public defiance. The room erupted in a furious murmur. The judges, who had maintained their stoic expressions, now exchanged shocked glances, their faces reflecting disbelief and growing anger. The media cameras swiveled, focusing intently on Sterling, whose face had gone from pale to a livid red, his carefully constructed facade of control crumbling before their eyes. Bethany Clark, watching a live stream from her apartment, screamed in impotent rage as her own voice betrayed her. Sterling darted a furious, desperate glance around the room, realizing he was cornered, utterly exposed. The air in the auditorium thickened with tension. This wasn't just a business presentation. It was a public reckoning, a complete and utter dismantling of Sterling's character and his bank's reputation. The silent hum of progress had given way to the roar of revelation. The room erupted, not with murmurs of doubt, but with a roar of outrage and disbelief that quickly morphed into a stunned, then rapidly growing wave of applause. The audio recording of Sterling's calm, calculating voice outlining his malicious strategy for Nexus Tech's demise, coupled with Bethany's venomous leaks played for all to hear, was the final devastating blow. The judges, who had maintained their stoic expressions throughout the presentation, now exchanged shocked glances, their faces reflecting a mixture of disbelief, anger, and dawning admiration for Alana's meticulous, methodical takedown. Media cameras swiveled, no longer focused solely on Alana, but now relentlessly on Donovan Sterling, whose face had gone from a livid red to a ghastly pallor. His meticulously constructed facade of control had not just crumbled, it had been atomized in front of the world. He stammered, attempting to speak, to deny, to deflect, but no words came. His usual polished arrogance had evaporated, replaced by the naked fear of a predator caught in a trap. He darted furious, desperate glances at his PR manager, who looked equally horrified, and then around the vast auditorium, realizing he was cornered, utterly exposed. Bethany Clark, watching the live stream from her meager apartment, screamed in impotent rage, slamming her fist against the cheap coffee table. Her own voice, coolly discussing the fabrication of lies, had just condemned her, sealing her fate not just professionally, but potentially legally. Her carefully constructed narrative of victimhood had been utterly demolished. Alana, however, remained a picture of serene composure on stage. She let the uproar swell, letting the audience absorb the full weight of the revelations. Her gaze remained unwavering, her posture unyielding. She had meticulously built her case brick by painful brick, and now the edifice of her adversary's deceit was collapsing spectacularly. Then came the breathless moment. Just as the noise in the room reached a deafening crescendo and a judge raised a hand to call for order, Sterling, in a desperate final act of malice, found his voice. He lunged forward, not physically but verbally, his voice booming with a desperate, hoarse fury, amplified by his own forgotten microphone. "This is a fabrication, a desperate, pathetic attempt to deflect from her own monumental incompetence," he roared, pointing a trembling finger at Alana. "This woman is an academic idealist. She failed before her little ethical consulting firm collapsed years ago because she couldn't handle the real world. She is unstable. She is a fraud." He had researched her, dug into her meticulously buried past, unearthed the one significant business failure of her early career. a groundbreaking ethical investment startup that had indeed folded due to unforeseen global market shifts and ruthless corporate espionage, but which he now twisted into a narrative of catastrophic personal failure and professional instability. He had saved this detail, believing it would be the ultimate weapon to discredit her, to paint her as perpetually inept, to make her current success seem like a fluke or a desperate gamble. A collective gasp rippled through the audience. The roaring outrage subsided into a confused murmur, then a wave of doubt. Had she truly failed before? Was this all a grand, desperate charade to mask past blunders? Some of the skeptical investors who had initially been swayed by Alana's evidence now shifted uneasily in their seats, their minds susceptible to the insinuation of past failure. The media cameras, momentarily disoriented by Sterling's outburst, now swiveled back to Alana, hungry for her reaction. Alana closed her eyes for a fleeting second, the memory of that past failure, the crushing weight of public scrutiny, the whispers of too idealistic and not ruthless enough, flashing through her mind with a vivid, almost painful clarity. It had been a wound she thought long healed, a chapter she had deliberately closed. But this time it was different. She was stronger. She had faced true malice, not just impersonal market forces. She had faced down a powerful empire. The old wound, when reopened, no longer brought pain, but a fierce, renewed resolve. She opened her eyes, fixing Sterling with a gaze that was both pitying and utterly contemptuous. Her voice when she spoke was calm, clear, and resonated with a newfound power that silenced the room more effectively than any gavel. "Yes, Mr. Sterling," Alana said, her voice ringing with an unwavering conviction, silencing the last whispers in the room. "I did fail once." She didn't flinch, didn't apologize, didn't explain. She owned it. Every entrepreneur who dares to dream big, who dares to challenge the status quo, faces setbacks. Every visionary encounters resistance. That startup, which you so gleefully malign, aimed to revolutionize ethical investment in a market that was at the time deeply entrenched in cynical practices. It faced unprecedented global economic shifts, and yes, it faced ruthless, unethical opposition. She paused, letting the implication hang in the air, her gaze unwavering. "But the difference between me and you, Mr. Sterling," she continued, turning her full attention to the furious, defeated man, "is that I learned from my failure. I didn't resort to sabotage. I didn't hide in the shadows. I rose again, stronger, wiser, and more determined. My past failures are not a mark of shame. They are a testament to my resilience, my capacity for growth, and my unwavering belief in the principles I advocate." Her voice then hardened, taking on a tone of profound moral judgment. "Your actions, gentlemen, are a mark of your cowardice, your corruption, and your inherent fear of true innovation and integrity. You tried to destroy me, Mr. Sterling, because I posed a threat, not just to your profits, but to your morally bankrupt worldview." She then delivered her final devastating blow, shifting from defense to a stunning offense that cemented her victory and redefined the future of Nexus Tech. And to demonstrate Nexus Tech Solutions' unwavering commitment to a new era of transparency, ethical business, and truly transformative technology, I am proud to announce a revolutionary multi-billion-dollar partnership. We finalized just last night an alliance that will not only replace the terminated contract with Apex National Bank, but will elevate Nexus Tech to an entirely new echelon. A new slide appeared on the jumbo screens behind her, displaying a sleek, elegant partnership logo. It was the insignia of Ether Financial Group, a rising star in the global banking sector, known for its progressive investment strategies and commitment to environmental, social, and governance (ESG) principles. Nexus Tech Solutions, Alana announced, her voice resonating with triumphant finality, will be partnering with Ether Financial Group to launch Project Aurora, an initiative dedicated to developing and deploying ethical, sustainable AI solutions across multiple industries, including renewable energy management and truly equitable financial services. This is not just about a contract. It's about building a future where technology serves humanity with integrity, where profit and ethics are not opposing forces but synergistic imperatives. This is about investing in a world that works for everyone, not just the privileged few. The room exploded, not with murmurs of doubt, but with a sudden overwhelming roar of applause, louder and more fervent than anything heard all day. The judges, who had been on the edge of their seats, now rose to their feet, their faces alight with a mixture of awe and profound admiration. The sheer audacity, the strategic brilliance, and the ethical conviction of Alana's move were undeniable. She had not only exposed her adversaries, she had outmaneuvered them completely, turning their attack into her greatest opportunity. Ether Financial Group was a game-changer, a visionary ally that would not only provide the necessary capital, but also amplify Nexus Tech's ethical mission on a global scale. It was a move Sterling, in his short-sighted greed and prejudice, had never even conceived of. The media cameras flashed relentlessly, no longer focused on Sterling's shame, but on Alana's triumphant, radiant presence. Sterling stared aghast, his face frozen in a rictus of utter defeat. His meticulously planned takeover, his carefully crafted narrative of her incompetence, his entire empire of deceit, was crumbling before his eyes, not with a whimper, but with a thunderous roar. Bethany Clark, watching from her apartment, could only stare at the screen, tears streaming down her face as her world imploded. The audience's reaction was a catharsis, a collective release of tension, and a triumphant validation of Alana's unwavering spirit. Faces that had been skeptical were now beaming with respect. The initial pity had transformed into outright awe. They weren't just witnessing a business recovery, they were witnessing the vindication of an individual, the triumph of integrity over malice and prejudice. Dr. Alana Sharp, the quiet academic, the overlooked visionary, had not only saved her mentor's legacy, she had redefined what it meant to lead, to innovate, and to succeed against impossible odds. The cheers were deafening, a symphony of recognition for the legend who had indeed returned bolder and more brilliant than ever. As the applause slowly subsided, Alana turned to look at Kevin, who stood at the side of the stage, his eyes brimming with tears, a proud, joyful smile on his face. He had quietly recorded Sterling's frantic outburst, capturing the entire scene, and had witnessed Alana's complete and utter triumph. He nodded, a silent acknowledgement of their shared victory. He was the quiet hero who had believed in her, the loyal assistant who had provided the crucial evidence, and he felt a surge of pride knowing he had played a part in this moment. The hum of the convention center had become the hum of a new future, one Alana Sharp was now powerfully shaping. The roar of applause that filled the Oak Haven Convention Center was a symphony of vindication for Alana Sharp. It wasn't merely the polite clapping of business associates, it was a genuine, heartfelt outpouring of respect and admiration. As the sound swelled around her, Alana felt a profound sense of release, a catharsis that washed away years of quiet striving and suppressed ambition. The burden of the past, the weight of expectations, the sting of prejudice, all seemed to dissipate in the wave of public recognition. The judges, their faces beaming, approached her, offering effusive congratulations. The media, their cameras still flashing, clamored for interviews, their questions now laced with awe instead of skepticism. Donovan Sterling, his face a mask of utter defeat, stood frozen amidst the celebratory chaos. His meticulously crafted empire of deceit had crumbled in a single public moment. He had envisioned Alana's public humiliation, a quick and easy acquisition of Nexus Tech. Instead, he found himself exposed, his reputation in tatters, his predatory tactics laid bare for all to see. He tried to speak, but no words came. The sneering confidence that had defined him for years had utterly vanished, replaced by a desperate, hollow shame. His pride, once his greatest asset, had become his undoing. He knew the $10 billion contract was gone, and the fallout would be catastrophic for Apex National Bank. Bethany Clark, meanwhile, fared far worse. The audio recording of her malicious conspiracy, played for a global audience, was damning. She was not only publicly disgraced, but faced immediate termination from Apex National Bank, effective the moment her manager Wallace Harding saw the live stream. Her long career, built on a foundation of subtle prejudice and rigid protocol, had imploded. Within days, the legal repercussions began to unfold. Nexus Tech Solutions, at Alana's directive, filed formal charges against Bethany for defamation and the deliberate destruction of corporate property. She faced a future of legal battles, likely fines, and the profound, isolating shame of public exposure. Her fate was a stark, fitting punishment for a life built on bitterness and deceit. In the immediate aftermath of the summit, the transformation of Nexus Tech Solutions was nothing short of miraculous. The Future of Finance and AI panel became the launchpad for Project Aurora, the groundbreaking partnership with Ether Financial Group. The infusion of capital coupled with Alana's visionary leadership stabilized Nexus Tech almost overnight. The wave of positive publicity was immense. Local and international news reports highlighted Alana's resilience, her innovative vision for ethical AI, and her triumphant stand against corporate malfeasance. Nexus Tech, once on the brink of collapse, was now lauded as a beacon of integrity and forward-thinking technology. Alana's first priority was to solidify her leadership and rebuild trust within the Nexus Tech team. She held company-wide town hall meetings, speaking directly to employees, acknowledging the difficult times they had endured under old management and during the recent crisis, and outlining her vision for a collaborative, inclusive future. She listened to their concerns, empowered them with new resources, and launched initiatives focused on employee well-being and professional development. The change in morale was palpable. Employees, once disengaged and cynical due to the company's struggles, began to rally around Alana, becoming passionate advocates for the new Nexus Tech. Kevin, in particular, thrived under Alana's mentorship. His courageous act of recording the incident at Apex National Bank had not gone unnoticed. Alana personally championed his cause, ensuring his safety from retaliation and advocating for his career development. He was officially hired by Nexus Tech as a junior analyst in the corporate ethics division, a role that perfectly leveraged his keen observational skills and unwavering moral compass. He was instrumental in helping Alana identify and implement new ethical protocols within Nexus Tech itself, ensuring that the company lived up to its new higher standards. His growth was astonishing. The nervous young security guard now spoke with confidence and authority, embodying the very spirit of change that Alana championed. He often found himself reflecting on that fateful Tuesday morning, the quiet woman in understated clothes who had walked into the bank and calmly dismantled a tyrant's reign. He had seen the legend unfold, and now he was helping to write its next chapter. One quiet afternoon, a few weeks after the summit, Alana received a call from Mr. Donovan Sterling. She had expected it, bracing herself for another attempt at manipulation or a desperate plea. But his voice, when it came, was devoid of its usual slickness, tinged instead with a heavy dose of humility, almost resignation. "Dr. Sharp." Sterling began, his tone uncharacteristically subdued. I owe you an apology. A profound apology." He spoke haltingly at first, then with a surprising degree of sincerity. He admitted to his complicity with Bethany, to his cynical view of her as an easy target, and to his own deep-seated pride and prejudice. "I misjudged you completely. I saw an opportunity for my own gain and allowed myself to be blinded by assumptions, by a misguided belief in my own superiority. Your presentation at the summit, your vision for ethical AI, the audacity of Project Aurora. It was truly remarkable. You didn't just win. You showed us all what true leadership looks like, what it means to lead with integrity. Apex National Bank has suffered immense reputational and financial damage because of my arrogance and the systemic issues you exposed. I am beginning to understand the depth of my blindness." He then made a concrete gesture of atonement, a move that surprised Alana with its humility and strategic insight. "I would like to offer Nexus Tech Solutions a genuine, equitable partnership. Apex National Bank, under my leadership, is undergoing a complete internal overhaul, starting with a comprehensive review of our lending practices and diversity initiatives. I recognize that a direct financial contract is no longer an option, nor should it be. However, I propose a strategic alliance for research and development. Apex National has significant resources in data analytics and financial infrastructure. I believe a collaborative venture, perhaps sharing resources for the ethical deployment of AI in financial services, or even a joint initiative to promote diversity and inclusion within the financial sector, could benefit both our companies. I'm willing to offer more than just a handshake, Dr. Sharp. I'm prepared to make a significant non-controlling investment in Project Aurora at your terms to prove my sincerity and to learn from your example. I want Apex National to be part of the solution, not the problem." Alana listened, her expression unreadable. She recognized the genuine remorse in his voice, the humility that had replaced his arrogance. She also saw the strategic advantage of such a partnership if properly managed. Sterling's network and resources, if used for good, could accelerate Nexus Tech's impact exponentially, particularly in the realm of financial ethics. It was a testament to her victory that her former adversary was now seeking to join her not as a conqueror, but as an unlikely, humbled ally. She knew she had to proceed with caution, but she also believed in the possibility of redemption, in the power of confronting one's own biases. "Mr. Sterling," Alana finally said, her voice still cautious, "your actions and the actions of your bank caused significant damage not just to Nexus Tech, but to the trust within the entire industry. Reconciliation will not be easy. However, I believe in second chances, especially for those willing to truly learn from their mistakes and commit to systemic change. Send me your detailed proposal. I will review it. But be under no illusion, any partnership will be on Nexus Tech's terms, centered on absolute transparency, uncompromising ethical practices, and a shared, verifiable commitment to diversity and community upliftment. The days of backroom deals, discriminatory practices, and corporate sabotage are over. Our mission is to build a better future, not just a more profitable one." Sterling's relief was palpable. "Thank you, Dr. Sharp. Thank you. I understand completely. You won't regret this. I look forward to proving myself worthy of your trust and contributing to your vision." He ended the call, leaving Alana with a sense of quiet triumph. Her victory was not just in winning the competition, but in forcing her adversary to confront his own flaws, and ultimately to become an unlikely if chastened ally. It was a victory not just for her, but for the principles she represented. The new calm that settled over Alana's life was not a return to the quiet solitude of her old apartment. It was a vibrant, dynamic peace filled with purpose and connection. Her brownstone, while still meticulously organized, now felt truly lived in, a place where ideas flowed freely and collaboration thrived. She often hosted informal brainstorming sessions with her Nexus Tech team, and even occasional dinners for Kevin and his family, sharing stories and laughter, fostering a culture of genuine connection that had been absent in her previous life. She found herself attending industry events, not as a silent observer, but as a sought-after keynote speaker. Her insights on ethical AI corporate responsibility and the power of resilience valued by peers across the globe. One evening, Alana and Kevin sat in the newly renovated Nexus Tech Solutions Innovation Hub, a sprawling collaborative workspace Alana had designed to foster creativity and inclusivity. The hub buzzed with activity, filled with the soft glow of data screens and the excited murmur of engineers discussing groundbreaking projects. "It's incredible, Dr. Sharp," Kevin said, looking around with a sense of deep satisfaction, a profound respect in his voice. "I still remember that day at the bank, how she ripped up your ID. I thought it was over. I thought you'd just leave." He trailed off, shaking his head in wonder. Alana smiled, a warmth spreading through her. "You know, Kevin, sometimes the greatest opportunities come disguised as the toughest challenges. I never intended to run a tech conglomerate. My life was very different. But Dr. Thorne, he saw something. He forced me out of my comfort zone. And you, Kevin, you saw the truth when others chose to be blind. Your courage, your integrity made all the difference." Kevin blushed, a rare display of vulnerability. "I just believed in you, Dr. Sharp. You treated me with respect when no one else did. You showed me that a business could be about more than just making money. It could be about doing good, about making a real impact." They sat in comfortable silence for a few moments, reflecting on the arduous journey. The tech company, once a symbol of ethical ambiguity and near collapse, had become a beacon of innovation, integrity, and social responsibility. Alana had not only transformed a struggling business, but had also, perhaps more importantly, transformed herself. The quiet academic had rediscovered her voice, her power, and her purpose. She was no longer just surviving. She was thriving, her impact extending far beyond the realm of balance sheets and market trends. The future, once a source of apprehension, now gleamed with the promise of endless possibilities, a testament to the legend who had truly returned. 18 months later, the morning sun, warm and golden, streamed through the expansive glass facade of the newly constructed Nexus Tech Solutions headquarters. It wasn't just an office building. It was a living monument to Alana Sharp's vision. Rows of gleaming transparent solar panels now adorned its roof, and south-facing walls, silently harnessing the energy of the day. Inside, the design was open, collaborative, and infused with biophilic elements. Living walls, natural light, and quiet zones for focused work. Beyond the bustling open-plan offices, a vibrant community outreach center, a public green space, and a cutting-edge ethical AI research lab bustled with activity. The air hummed, not with the sterile quiet of a bank, but with the innovative energy of collective purpose and shared ambition. Dr. Alana Sharp, at 50, was a woman utterly transformed. The quiet composure she once cultivated as a shield now emanated as a radiant, magnetic confidence. Her days were no longer defined by the sterile clicks of a corporate keyboard or the solitary hum of a refrigerator. They were filled with dynamic global meetings, strategic expansions, and deeply rewarding community engagements. Nexus Tech Solutions, under her visionary leadership, had blossomed into a global leader in ethical AI and sustainable technology, consistently outperforming its competitors and earning widespread acclaim not just for its innovation, but for its unwavering integrity. The unlikely partnership with Apex National Bank, initially fraught with cautious skepticism, had blossomed into a genuinely collaborative venture. Donovan Sterling, humbled and reformed, had proven to be a surprisingly effective and ethical business partner, truly committed to the green and inclusive initiatives Alana championed. He frequently cited Alana as the catalyst for his own professional and personal transformation, a testament to her profound impact. Her personal life, once a stark landscape of self-imposed solitude, was now rich and fulfilling. Her brownstone, while still meticulously kept, felt lived in, filled with vibrant art and the occasional spontaneous dinner party with friends and colleagues. She had found a genuine connection with Dr. Elias Thorne, a brilliant astrophysicist and environmental advocate she met at a global sustainability conference. Elias admired her vision, shared her passion for a better world, and respected her fierce independence. Their conversations were lively, their respect mutual, and their companionship a gentle balm to her once guarded heart. On this particular morning, Alana stood beside Kevin Now, the proud and capable director of ethical AI implementation for Nexus Tech Solutions. He was no longer the nervous young security guard, but a confident, articulate leader, his natural intelligence and quiet strength honed by Alana's mentorship and his own unwavering moral compass. He had spearheaded the company's internal ethical AI audits, ensuring every new product adhered to rigorous fairness and transparency standards, turning Alana's bold vision into tangible reality. The Aurora Smart Cities project just secured its third major municipal contract, Dr. Sharp. Kevin reported, a proud smile on his face. Our predictive analytics for urban energy grids are reducing waste by nearly 30%, and our inclusive community engagement model is being adopted as a standard by other tech firms. Excellent, Kevin. Alana replied, her eyes sweeping over the bustling hub, a symbol of their shared triumph. Your dedication has been instrumental in making this dream a reality. You truly embody the spirit of Nexus Tech Green. Kevin shrugged modestly, but his pride was evident. I learned from the best. You showed me what was possible, Dr. Sharp. You showed me that a business could be a force for good, and that integrity is the most powerful asset. This resonated deeply with Alana. Her journey from corporate analyst to CEO of a global ethical tech empire wasn't just about financial success, it was about purpose. The quiet wisdom of Dr. Eris Thorne, her mentor who had seen beyond the grime of corporate cynicism, had been profoundly prescient. Alana had not only transformed a struggling business, but had also, perhaps more importantly, embraced a philosophy of paying it forward. Her commitment to this philosophy manifested in tangible ways. Nexus Tech Solutions, under her leadership, had established the Thorne Sharp Ethical Leadership Institute, a joint nonprofit initiative with her recovered mentor, Dr. Eris Thorne. The institute was housed in a beautifully renovated wing of Eastwick University, a symbolic bridge between academia and industry. It was dedicated to providing scholarships, mentorship, and practical training to aspiring leaders from underrepresented backgrounds, particularly women and people of color, focusing on instilling strong ethical principles in future corporate and technological endeavors. Alana personally oversaw the curriculum, often teaching masterclasses and offering invaluable strategic guidance, drawing from her own triumphs and, crucially, her past setbacks. She believed that every ambitious mind deserved a fair shot regardless of their background or the biases they might face. She regularly gave keynote speeches at prestigious business schools, international tech conferences, and forums on social justice, sharing her incredible story. She spoke candidly about her early career struggles, her quiet ambition, the shock of the inheritance, and the intense battle she faced against prejudice and sabotage. Her talks were always met with standing ovations, not just for her business acumen, but for her honesty, her resilience, and her unwavering belief in the power of integrity. She was a living testament that courage could indeed alter destinies, and that light always found a path even in the deepest darkness. Many of the young women she mentored saw in her the vibrant, ambitious girl from the faded photograph in her brownstone, now fully realized and empowered her legend, inspiring a new generation. One afternoon, a young woman named Sarah, a recent graduate from a historically black college and a recipient of the Thorne Sharp Ethical Leadership Institute's inaugural fellowship, approached Alana after one of her talks. Sarah was struggling to launch her AI-driven educational startup, facing similar skepticism and resource limitations that Alana had once encountered. Dr. Sharp. Sarah began, her voice filled with admiration and a hint of desperation. "Your story, it gives me so much hope. But I feel like I'm constantly hitting brick walls. They just don't take me seriously." Alana smiled warmly, a genuine empathy in her eyes. "Brick walls are just opportunities to find a new path, Sarah. Sometimes you have to build your own door brick by brick with integrity and unwavering belief. What are your challenges right now?" They sat for an hour in a quiet corner of the university hall, Alana listening intently, offering practical advice, connecting Sarah with key Nexus Tech engineers and Ether Financial Group's venture capital contacts, and reminding her of the fierce inner strength she possessed. As Sarah left, her face alight with renewed determination, Alana felt a profound sense of fulfillment. This was the true reward, helping others unlock their own legends to illuminate their own paths forward. The final image of Alana's story finds her standing on a gentle hill, overlooking the sprawling, ethically designed Nexus Tech Solutions headquarters. It's late afternoon, and the setting sun casts a warm golden glow across the transparent solar panels, reflecting like 1,000 tiny mirrors. The building hums with life, not just the hum of technology, but the vibrant energy of diverse minds, collaborating, of ethical principles being put into practice. Inside, she sees Kevin, leading a team, laughing easily with his colleagues. She sees a group of Thorne Sharp fellows passionately debating AI ethics in a sunlit classroom. Alana smiles, a deep, contented smile that reaches her eyes. Her journey had been arduous, fraught with unexpected challenges and a ruthless adversary. But through it all, she had not only reclaimed a lost legacy, but had also rediscovered her own formidable power. She had transformed a symbol of corporate cynicism into a beacon of progress, a testament to what could be achieved when vision met courage and when integrity shone brightest in the face of darkness. The silence that once defined her life had given way to a vibrant symphony of purpose, growth, and the joyous hum of a world she was finally helping to change. The legend had not merely returned, it had blossomed, inspiring countless others to find their own hidden light. If this story stirred your heart, if it reminds you that courage can alter destinies, and that light always finds a path even in the deepest darkness, please leave a comment. Share this story with those who need inspiration. Like, subscribe, and hit the bell to never miss our upcoming stories.